Welcome back. You're watching us here on Mad About Markets. We're discussing India's dry fruit market. Now, time to discuss the growth accelerators and challenges, as we call it, the yays and the mays.
And the nuts and the bolts, like you said.
And the nuts and the bolts. So let's start with the yays. The biggest yay, of course, is that it's a healthy snacking option, and now people are accepting branded dry fruit as a product in the market, as against earlier they would question all these things.
You know, as much as we like it and we want to eat it, it's not the cheapest option available when you talk about snacking. We still love our chips and everything else. Yeah, easily accessible.
That's true, but that's where the branded players and the large organized players help, because once they have economies of scale, they source and take care of all these things, the costs will eventually start coming down.
Well, one hopes so, but the sourcing challenges remain for the dry fruit industry, and that is one of the maze.
Yeah, it's largely import dependent, but then again, there is an increasing demand for standard quality as well. So these large players will tie up with these suppliers and have standard quality throughout the year, as against your local guys who might not give you the best quality throughout the season.
This packaged dry fruit that you're talking about, often you compromise on the nutritional value, because those trail mixes you were harping on about earlier, sometimes they're added with sugars and processed things, so it may not be the healthiest anymore.
But the nutritional value is written on the packages. So those who are reading and are health conscious, of course, can read that and make those choices for themselves.
But I can eat a bag of chips, but I can't really do the same with dry fruit. So it's not easiest to eat it. It's not the healthiest if you binge on it.
Well, I see that, but the opportunity to penetrate beyond e-commerce and quick commerce. Right now, when you're talking about, calling for these things conveniently, imagine if packs of dry fruit at 5 rupees, 10 rupees or 15 rupees available at every pawn shop in the country. Sachetization, or maybe, packing that nut in a
But it still remains very difficult to build trust in this industry, given the legacy relationships with sellers. So that is one of the bigger mazes that we're talking about for the dry fruit market.
But then you have stronger brands as well. We'll talk about that. But Deepika, how do you break the current framework of this dry fruit purchase sales? Legacy sellers still sell through relationships.
No, absolutely. I think that is exactly the challenge, right? You're looking at a really expensive purchase. There is an existing habit to buy, but you would be surprised to know that consumers actually don't understand a lot of the sub-variants and the sub-segments, right? Even if you take something like, let's say, Californian almond, there are like 19-20 varieties. When consumers are transacting day on day with these legacy relationships, it's not always that they're getting the same quality product all the time. So to give them the assurance, especially on such an expensive purchase, is what brands can do, because we hold our quality standards to the highest. So the Tata Sampann brand is actually very well placed to assure the consumers that it's a high quality product. And I think that we've learned over time, this is not the first category that we've gotten into. We've learned over time that assurance that comes about unwavering quality, we say our dry fruits are handpicked, is what's actually helping consumers lean in quite comfortably on the brand. So ultimately, in any category, the quality of the product is the real truth, and offering that consistently to consumers is what's helping us.
Well, Vikas, what is the end game here for Happilo? And, dry fruit itself, is that going to be the focus, or are you going to go larger all the way up in your product portfolio and look at more snacking options?
See, we have completed 6 years now. In the first 4 years, we're largely focusing on dry fruits and trail mixes as the category itself. But now we are largely expanded using dry fruits as a primary ingredient. We have launched India's first dry fruit bar, which is completely made of dry fruits and nuts with no added sugar, no preservatives, and comes with the goodness of no gluten, no cholesterol, trans fat free, and all those things. So it's not only about what we're trying to build in terms of dry fruits. For us, we want to make Indians eat more dry fruits, either directly or indirectly, as an ingredient, as a whole product, as a part of some recipe. In fact, we are about to launch our dry fruit muesli, which again is loaded with around 50-60% nuts into it. So, for example, whatever we do, we have recently launched a Kaju Katli spread. Again, what Natala did with hazelnut, we are actually trying to do with cashews to promote the Indian cashews, for that matter. So it's very tasty. Again, whatever product we try to do, we focus a lot on taste, health, and most importantly, we want to hold on to that positioning of dry fruits and keep dry fruits as a key ingredient. So we will also expand to a lot of snacking products. But again, dry fruit will always be a key ingredient in all those products what we do.
Kaju Katli spread, that'll be interesting. He's trying to do that. But Vikas, IPO on the cards, or are you looking to sell to a strategic?
No, I think it's my dream that when I started the company, I always aspired to build something big. God has been very kind. So I think the journey going forward will be to do an IPO maybe 2-3 years down the line. And we have the likes of A91 and Motilal Oswal backing us, people who are experts on doing IPOs. So hopefully that can also help us scale that faster. But I think 2-3 years down the line, we look at IPO when we scale to a bigger number and do better. I think we just started.
All right, so we'll wait to see how that plays out. But Deepika, sourcing, that's also very import dependent for dry fruit players. Do you see that as one of the key risks?
I don't think in this day and age you can say that anything import is a risk, because it's the order of things for most categories that we operate in. We are definitely, there's just global linkages. So I don't see it really as a risk any more than any of the other categories we operate in. So you're right. For almonds, for example, the big source exists internationally. But I think that there's a lot of ability to predict, the crop patterns, cycles. There is a reasonable interface available in terms of importers into the country. So it's manageable.
Right, that brings us to the bigger question. Is it time to go nuts about India's dry fruit industry, or is it still not crunchy enough? Well, Deepika, why don't you go first?
Look, I am really bullish. Everybody around me is getting really healthy. I think if you look at the rising awareness for health and wellness, and not to miss the fact that incomes are rising, disposable incomes are rising. So I think people have the ability to buy dry fruit. And dry fruit is not a new habit for India. It exists in our culture. We all grew up with 4 almonds in the morning. So I think that the category and its importance exists in our culture. So I think if we can organize this for consumers and spread the awareness, it's time to go nuts about dry fruit.
Time to go nuts. Vikas, you have the final word. Are you nuts about India's dry fruit market?
It'll take time. I can't say that everybody can participate right now, but everybody, I think, is contributing in their own way. The dry fruit has been there. As I told you, it's an age-old wisdom. It's being sold from centuries. People are eating it as a part of their healthy diet and nutrition. Affordability was a problem in India, and availability was one more challenge, because India was such a fragmented market earlier. And now with GST, food safety, and a lot of standardization across the market, standard MRPs, standard tax structures are making it actually more meaningful to actually do a lot of sales and distribution pan India and penetrate the network. But I think, still take time. A lot of awareness has to be built. Still, people have that habit of buying through a loose quantity or something like that. But things will change today with the COVID. I think that there's a rapid change in terms of how people want to consume. People want to buy branded stuff, because for at Happilo, people trust that everything is untouched by hand, stands for quality, stands for hygiene, comes from a reputed house as well. So overall, it's a lot of things have to work together. It's not that just today somebody decides and tomorrow they can do. We also took like 6-7 years to reach where we are today, and it'll take time, but eventually the category will grow and a lot of players will also come, and we also have to innovate in terms of product, in terms of pricing, in terms of how to package it, what kind of R&D we can build, and what kind of sourcing capabilities we can add, and how deeper we can integrate in terms of technology, product, and the placements.
It's after a long time that we have divergent views on the bigger question, right? And both of the players are from the industry. One thinks it's time to go nuts, and the other thinks it's not time yet.
The other one perhaps wants no other competition coming in, and which is why that's happened. But on that note, we'll thank both Vikas and Deepika for taking the time out and explaining to us the nuts and bolts of India's dry fruit market. With that, we wrap.
We wrap up this edition of Mad About Markets, but we'll see you same time next week.
Keep munching.